Whether it's for work or for your passion, there are so many ways you can promote yourself online, and it can get overwhelming. You can do a blog, you can do videos like this, you can do posts on any social media platform. But I want to tell you that podcast and interviewing people is probably the best way to learn and connect with people in your area, to be seen as an authority, and to get exposure. The first part is about learning and connecting with people. First, you will get access to amazing people you won't have access to otherwise, because if you find someone very interesting in your network, you can just go like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And then you can have this interview, and sometimes you can even become friends with them. The second part is with these amazing people, or with ordinary people, or just your friends, you can have amazing conversations where you learn a lot of things. And you just learn in general to ask people about what they're passionate about and when they're interesting. So it's really a good skill to have for your interviews, but also in your everyday life. And the third part, which was a big one for me, was to learn to listen more. When I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, I understood you learn more when you ask questions and you listen than when you speak and you try to make a point. And that's a very good exercise that you have to do during your podcast, but that then you can implement in your everyday life. So you're going to learn a lot and connect with amazing people. The second part is you're going to be seen as an authority in that domain. Third thing is, might sound silly, but podcasts sound fancy. Like when you say you have a blog, it doesn't sound that fancy. When you say you have a podcast, even though it takes 5 minutes to have your podcast on iTunes, and then I'll tell you how you can do that, people see it as you being an authority. That's the first part. The second reason is that people will associate you with the guest and with their knowledge. So if you interview amazing people, people will associate you naturally with that person, even if you don't know anything about their expertise. For example, I interviewed people about Ayurveda, not knowing anything about Ayurveda, but then people associate me with a bit of knowledge of Ayurveda, which I have now because I've learned thanks to this podcast. The third part is you put other people forward instead of yourself. And especially in the industry I'm in, which is personal growth, everyone's like, me, look at me, I'm smart, I'm doing that, I'm strong. And it really makes the difference to have someone saying, well, look at that person who's amazing. And it's way easier to promote. Like, it's easier to do a post saying, hey, listen to that amazing interview if you're interviewing someone else rather than yourself. And the thing is, you're not an imposter. That's true. You're actually interested in other people. You want to do it in a genuine way, but people see you as you truly are, which is someone who's interested in other people and put them forward. The third big part is getting exposure. And the first reason is that you can use the person's network. So if the person liked the interview, chances are they're going to share it with their audience. And so that's a new audience you get access to. The second part of the getting exposure thing is that audio is getting big. Gary Vee, which is a main influencer in social media, talks a lot about it. You can see it with Alexa or Google Home being more and more present in people's home. And like, even the books I read, most of them, I listen to them. Like, I listen to so many podcasts already because it's so convenient. We live in a busy world. And, you know, when you wait in a line or you're in the bus on my motorbike, I can listen to podcasts when I can't really read books or watch videos. So audio is getting big. So it's a good bet to do. The third reason in the getting exposure is SEO. Because when you do a post on Instagram or in social media in general, well, you'll get a lot of traction during a few days, but then it disappears. Well, with a podcast, especially if you also post it on YouTube, which you can do very easily, and I explain how, well, then when people research on Google, they're going to find your video. If they research the person you interviewed, they might find your video, and again, it's exposure and also referencing yourself as an expert. And the last part about getting exposure is that, well, it's actually way easier than you think. As I told you, you can be on iTunes in 5 minutes. There are great online tools now that are designed for it. And it also requires little equipment. I'll give you an example. Well, here I'm recording with my iPhone. I have this little mic that I bought for $50, and that's a music stand, an old music stand I have to place my iPhone. And if you want to make it even easier, as I'm doing for this video, you can record live, because then you can have a conversation that's more spontaneous and people like it, and also it requires no editing. So for example, here, when the video is finished, I can just publish it and it's done. Here I did a few notes to make it a bit more clear for you, but I don't do that when I do a podcast, and you don't have to. So really good luck with starting your podcast, and I'm generally very interested in what other people do. So if you like this video, if it inspires you anyhow, please drop a comment. And if you do a podcast, obviously, tell what it is, because I want to follow it and listen to it. Good luck, guys.